The government and the KEPSA have had regular engagements hinged on ways and means of optimizing the efficiency of the private sector. The most recent structured interaction was held last month on 18th at the Kenya School of Government. During this meeting, a number of recommendations and action points to facilitate a more business-friendly environment was agreed on. On its part, the government has been working the talk on identified issues and proposed interventions. It has also been rallying relevant state agencies for appropriate responses. A number of meetings between KEPSA representatives and state agencies have also been held. And looking at the PowerPoint presentation, I see there were 7 thematic issues you have gone through. One is on reinvigorating domestic demand to catalyze growth and stability. And I think the chairman has painted a very good picture that something is happening in our economy. But sometimes I hear, vitu kwa ground ni tofauti. But I think I just want to say we are spot on as a government. We've been engaging you, and you understand. Even this meeting I had with the Ugandans this morning is part of ensuring that vitu kwa ground lazima iwe sawa sawa. The other issue which our government has been engaging with KEPSA is promoting export development and easy access to global markets. Another one is on research, innovation, and creativity. Then on the Big 4 agenda, manufacturing, affordable housing, food security, and universal health care. A total of 93 issues have been raised by KEPSA and during the roundtables. And according to this presentation, 91 of them have been resolved. Only 2 are remaining. So, and the details are contained in the PowerPoint presentation, which I'm going to hand over to Carol, so it can be shared with members, so you see the progress. I think the second point I wanted to raise that CS Umatiangu would have wanted to talk about is on this issue of MSMEs. And he says that His Excellency the President has been he has been a relentless advocate of the micro, small, and medium enterprises, and that to ensure timely and co-effective completion of the government projects, His Excellency the President, through Executive Order number 1 of 2019, established the National Development Implementation Cabinet Coordination Committee and other development coordination structures at national, regional, and county levels. Through the NDICC, the government will sustain engagements with the business sector, including KEPSA, to identify and implement viable options to challenges affecting SMEs. The MSME Policy Index that has just been launched must be applauded as a purposed and necessary scrutiny of the environment under which MSMEs are operating in and how best to better it. His Excellency the President has personally taken a keen interest in the realization of the Kenya Rising Star and Scale program. This particular study should ideally catalyze faster attainment of the Kenya Rising Star and Scale program. The rest is on and on and on, but I just want to stop there. At least I have represented him. So I will end my speech by just talking about 4 issues that we have been engaging with KEPSA. First is on trade facilitation. I want to thank you because you've been a co-chair of the Kenya National Trade Facilitation Committee, and we have already signed the agreement, the trade facilitation agreement, and it has been ratified before we hosted the MC10 in 2015. And we have made good progress on that front. The other area we have worked together is on the fight against illicit trade. And I think you will recall May 10th. Some of you remember when His Excellency the President tried to give me some job. And I think when you look back for the last almost 1.5 years, we've made very good progress. We may have had unintended consequences because I know there have been complaints around what that fight has meant. But really, overall, we have seen good progress. And I encourage you that we continue to make sure that we eliminate all forms of illicit trade, whether they are counterfeits, whether they're illicit trade or uncustomed goods. And we have also tried to organize ourselves as government to make sure that we have a coherent approach to enforcement of that. Finally, there is the issue of export promotion and the issue of trade negotiation. We have launched our export strategy last year, and KEPSA was there also doing the trade week this year. Our consultant, thanks to the support of Trademark East Africa, they have completed now the progress of assessing how far we are. So next year we are going to have a meeting with all of you to see where we have reached in terms of implementation of the strategy. I can say I have seen good progress. We are looking at agriculture, we are looking at fisheries, livestock, handicrafts, we are looking at oil and gas, and several other areas of goods. Then on services, we are looking at health services, education services, transport services, business services, financial services, quite a number. We are spot on. Overall, there is a trade imbalance. We export less than we import. Actually, 17 billion worth of imports were registered last year, and only 6 billion worth of exports. So we have a deficit of 11 billion in trade in goods. But in trade in services, we are doing better. We have a surplus. We export more services than we import. So overall, that shrinks because we have about 4 billion surplus in exports. So that narrows the deficit from $11 billion to around 7 billion, which is still high. If you look at it as percent of GDP, what we call the current account, that's still high. But we are making efforts, and I'm calling upon all of you, let's rally together through your sectors to make sure we become an exporting nation. And we will have those later. And then I want to end with the issue of trade negotiation. We have a National Trade Negotiation Council, which has been formed in order to make sure that when we engage in negotiations, we do it as one government. And we have never gone to any negotiations without having the private sector. I want to thank you because you always give us your best staff. And CAM, especially when I am in Tanzania, CAM is very good. And they have been always around making sure they support me with all the information. And that makes your work easy because then you empower us with the information and we do better. So we will be calling upon you also in that. We are even thinking about post-AGOA. And what does it mean for US after the end of AGOA in 2025? Should we do an extension of AGOA? Should we negotiate an FTA? I think those discussions are there, and we'll be calling upon you. So I just want to say, even the issue of commercial attaches, we are discussing to see that we post our commercial attaches to appropriate and relevant places. We also see how to use our embassies optimally. I just want to encourage you to see that we have a conversation around the issue of commercial diplomacy. I think we could better handle it well, and I want to throw it to you, private sector. I find you a bit uncoordinated in that front, and I'm not going to say more than that. Thank you very much. Asante sana.
We are back again at the KEPSA MSME 2019 survey launch. My name is Mbitha Mwema. If you're joining us, welcome to Markets Today. Now, on the sidelines, we are seated with Dr. Kiptoo, who is the Permanent Secretary for the Trade and Industry. Thank you so much for joining us this evening and for your remarks, your closing remarks during this function. When we're looking at SMEs, how do you look at SMEs and what is the government doing?
Yeah, from the perspective of our State Department, we have a national trade policy, which was approved by Cabinet in December 2018.
Okay.
In that policy, under the domestic trade, we have 5 issues that we try to address through the policy in order to improve the effectiveness of SMEs.
Okay.
The first is legal and regulatory framework.
All right.
We want to make sure that the environment under which the SMEs operate has a proper and functional legal and regulatory framework. And you know, in this environment where we have a devolved system of government, we have to work with the counties
Yes.
to make sure that licensing and dealing with SMEs is done in a proper way.
So it has to be devolved.
So policy requires that we work with the county government to ensure that we have a proper, functional, legal and regulatory environment. The second one is fit for purpose infrastructure. A lot of our SMEs operate in a very dilapidated infrastructure.
Yes,
the work premises are not good. They don't even have nice place, no toilets. In other words, we need to address the environment that our SMEs work.
Okay.
So the policy is indicating, it's actually saying that we must find ways to address that. So we have to take up measures to improve or get a fit and for purpose infrastructure. The third issue is the need to address weak supply chains, because you will find that there are too many middlemen. In the process, you find that those SMEs in the production sector and also those that are in the consumption, there is a problem of weak supply chain.
Okay.
So the policy is requiring that we find ways to address that.
So what is the weakness in the supply chain? Is it infrastructure? Is it middlemen?
It is also about information. Asymmetry.
Okay.
That there is not enough information available, and the transparency is not in high enough for people to make rational decisions. So what the policy is saying, that we need to find ways to improve transparency and improve price discovery, which is why even in the policy we are calling for a commodity exchange. That we need.
Yes, but that has been a conversation for long. Are we almost there?
Let me finish the fourth issue.
Okay, the fourth issue.
The fourth issue is on issues of skills.
Yes.
Management capacity. That SMEs should be empowered with knowledge and skills to be able to run businesses. And that is what the policy is addressing, that we need to find ways to upgrade and make sure that SMEs have the capacity and have the knowledge.
Okay, the skills.
The last issue under our national trade policy on SMEs is that we need to strengthen BMOs. That for every sector, the business member organizations, whether they are in agriculture, whether they are in textile, manufacturing, those voices for SMEs must be strengthened, which is why we recognize BMOs. And when we have strong business member organizations of SMEs, it is when government can respond adequately and effectively to the challenges of SMEs.
All right.
And lastly,
yes,
the issue of financing.
Yes, financing.
We also know that financing is a big issue, so SMEs require to be given access and affordable credit. And then the issue of markets. They can produce, they can get the money, but they need markets. So we are working again within the ministry to ensure that we have market access. So apart from the 5 issues, we have access to finance and also the issue of market. So in total, almost 8. Yes. In the index that we have launched today,
yes,
it is also including another criteria, yes, which is on governance.
Yes.
To make sure that the governance of SMEs is good enough
and it's
to ensure that there is efficiency and effectiveness.
And also the element of governance, it's a prerequisite for you to attract the kind of funding, especially equity funding. Let me bring you back to the element of market access. Is it focused on the local market access or global market access?
Addressing many things when it comes to market access. First, local market, we just want to make sure that in the domestic market, we address issues which are barriers to trade. Like you will find a lot of SMEs have a challenge moving across counties.
Yes.
You move from one county to another, each counties are charging levies, they are charging fees. So if you do a brand like this, they will charge you for that brand when you move from county A to county B, and it becomes multiple fees, multiple levies, and it becomes a challenge. We want to make sure that with one single license, you can move across.
Yes.
So this is one of the things we are trying to address. The other aspect is addressing input costs, to make sure that inputs are affordable for the SMEs, particularly like labor, energy, electricity.
So what are we doing on electricity?
There's a lot that the government is doing. For instance, we are now going on to green energy, and we are, if you look at our power mix now, we have geothermal, we have wind, we have solar, and we have, of course, the hydro.
Yes.
And you can see that we have gone green. And
actually,
now we have
we have grown green.
And then number 2, we have also now more power supply than
Yes.
before.
Yes,
So it's not about adequacy. I think the challenge we have now is about affordability, and government is working towards having a reduction in the cost of power,
Yes.
which is really a big hindrance to the performance of SMEs because it hurts their competitiveness. The other issue is, of course, labor, which of course, the SMEs seem to, especially those in organized sectors where we still have minimum wage and labor unions are very strong, and I think because of that, labor tends to be expensive.
Yes.
But I think it's an issue government also is addressing through the appropriate ministries.
Okay.
So I think those are some of the challenges.
Those are some,
yeah.
okay, that's very interesting. I want to take you back
And
to
on
the-
international trade,
Yes, international
because
trade.
we are working hard to make sure we provide market access.
Okay.
So
how is this happening?
we are doing export promotion,
Okay.
and first we do market negotiation of market, like EAC. Now we are working on tripartite free trade area that brings together EAC, KEPSA, and SADC.
Oh, wow.
We are negotiating to have a free trade.
Okay.
And within the Africa continent, we are also we have completed negotiations for an African continental free trade area.
Okay.
And in this free trade area, we have 54 out of 55 countries of Africa now
They're
that
already
have signed.
in there. Okay.
We require only 22 countries to ratify that
And it goes
agreement.
ahead.
Yeah, so far we have 27 countries that have signed and ratified.
So then it's good
So
to go.
actually from July next year, we are going to start free trade. So when we remove the tariff barrier, because we are now not going to have our goods being charged tariffs when they cross from, say, Kenya to Ethiopia or
Uganda
to
or-
other
okay.
countries,
Okay.
because they will not be paying tariffs. So their competitiveness will be improved. Now we have to address other barriers like connectivity, issues around high cost of transport.
That's what I was going to ask, because it's one thing to actually sign and have the big picture and it's sorted, but then how do you measure success? How do the SMEs then begin to connect to this international market?
Tariff barriers removed, because
Then
when
it
you talk of
becomes
free trade,
seamless.
it means first issues around duty are addressed. So to that extent,
Then
it
you can
becomes
actually
easy.
access. Do they have the capacity? Because in Kenya we have the big SMEs, we have the large corporates, the Bidco, we have the Safaricoms, you have the KCB and the equity banks. Then there's always a missing gap. Then you sort of have now the next level of SMEs. So do they have the capacity and the wherewithal to actually develop into competitive partners on a global scale?
I think to a large extent our SMEs are doing their best.
Okay.
And a lot of them have actually graduated. The Bidcos you are talking about,
Yes.
the equities, Big Bank, and many other of the big companies we have now started as SMEs, and they have grown.
Okay.
They have grown because of this market access. For instance, in EAC, we have now a customs union. In
Yes,
a
we
customs
do.
union,
We
you don't
do.
pay duties.
We do.
And
We
we
do.
have tried also to create a common market.
Yes.
So in a way, there is also now free movement of goods, free movement of services, free movement of capital, and even the right of establishment. We now have SMEs.
Okay.
If they go to Uganda or
So it's
Tanzania, they
becoming
can be able to,
seamless and
yes.
easier. Okay,
yes.
fantastic. Now to my second last question. When you're talking about having this SMEs scale and getting to global markets, how do we look at our exports and imports from where you sit? What is the balance between goods and services? Where is there a deficit? Where is there a surplus?
You see, enterprises engage in different types of businesses.
Yes, they do.
Some import goods to sell, others export goods, and it's all business. It's about having a product where you have a buyer,
Yes.
you are the seller, or you could be having a seller and a buyer. So depending on where you sit, you could be an importer or an exporter. What we have at the moment is that we have a large number of foreign companies, or let's say we have too many goods being imported into Kenya more than we are exporting.
Exactly.
And we have now a gap of about $11 billion, which is about 1.1 trillion Kenya shillings.
Okay.
Because our exports are 600 billion, our imports are 1.7 trillion,
Okay.
giving us a deficit of 1.1 trillion. Fortunately, for services, we export more services than we import. So there is a surplus of about 400 billion.
Okay.
So from 1.1 trillion, you remove 400 billion, you have a deficit of around 700 billion,
Okay.
which is the gap we are trying to close. Because that wide deficit is what is putting pressure on our shilling.
Exactly.
And you have
The
seen
current account deficit.
the current account deficit, which is now causing pressure on our shilling, where you see the shilling
is moving from 100 to 101 to 102, and
105.
yes, that pressure is high
like
because we
it
have
when
a floating exchange rate.
And you have brought us to the crux of this conversation. There's pressure on the currency. Central bank is saying the currency is undervalued. IMF is saying the currency is overvalued. And were in the docket that you're sitting, you're saying we need to get to a point of a current account surplus. In other words, we need to export more. So what do we need to do? What do we expect to see in now 12 to 24 months?
I think we just need to sustain the policy that we have and the strategy we have put in place, implement the strategy because we have the right strategy. We have the goodwill from government. We have brought in all the relevant stakeholders. So let's go and implement this strategy, go to the international market.
Yes.
For the exchange rate policy, it is already liberal. So we let the currency be determined by market forces.
And it works in our favor if it goes to maybe, because IMF says it's 17% over, there needs to see a depreciation of 17%. That works in favor for our exports, doesn't it?
It does, but we have to be careful not to manage the exchange rate. Let the exchange rate respond to market fundamentals.
Market fundamentals.
Yes.
Okay, is there anything else that you want to bring out that's pertinent to the conversation of the economy, of the SMEs, of the trade sector?
I just want to say that one of the things we are also addressing is to make sure that we have prompt payments for goods that have been delivered or services delivered. Those who have benefited from those goods and services must pay on time.
Yes,
Government is doing their best, and I think we have made our best to pay. And also, we are working on regulations to ensure prompt payments. I think that's one of the things we need to do.
I cannot wait for those regulations. I'll certainly be a beneficiary.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your time, your contribution, and congratulations on the work.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Asante sana.
Asante sana.
Thank you.
All right. So there we have it. If you're looking to find out what is happening in the trade sector, there are a lot of opportunities for you to scale as an SME. We are exporting a lot of services. Are you exporting services? Are you exporting goods? We need to get Kenya moving from a current account deficit to a current account surplus. But today, we are in a positive space. We are moving more forward. We're able to measure what we are doing. That was Dr. Kiptoo, who is the PS of the Trade and Industry Department. Thank you so much for joining us once again. We will see you shortly.